Number 9. Ford Thunderbird. The 1977 Ford Thunderbird was the seventh generation of a nameplate that had started in 1955 as a two-seat personal sports car and arrived in 1977 as the sixth best-selling passenger car in the United States with 325,153 units. Its history was the full story of what the American personal luxury market had become, the transition from a small, nimble, driver-focused roadster to a large, formal, comfort-focused coupe, following the buyer's preferences at every step rather than leading them anywhere. For 1977, Ford moved the Thunderbird to a lighter intermediate platform shared with the Torino and LTD2, reducing its price by nearly $3,000. That single decision brought 325,153 buyers home with one, a record the nameplate had never approached. Its 302 cubic inch V8, its select shift Cruise-O-Matic, and its padded vinyl roof gave the Thunderbird buyer everything the personal luxury segment had established as the definition of arrival: power windows, power locks, a standard equipment list that the base Maverick buyer could not begin to imagine when shopping in the same Ford dealer on the same day. At 325,153 units, it outsold the Grand Prix. The Thunderbird is at number 9 because the nameplate that began as a two-seat roadster competing with the Corvette sold 325,000 personal luxury coupes in 1977, and because the distance between those two things is the full history of what American buyers decided they actually wanted when given the choice every model year. Number 8. Toyota Corolla. The Toyota Corolla had been growing its American sales presence since 1968 through the specific mechanism that Toyota had never paid for: owner testimony. The buyer who drove one to 100,000 miles without the repair events that comparable domestic compacts had normalized described the experience to a neighbor, a coworker, a relative about to choose a car. By 1977, those conversations had accumulated into a sales position that Detroit's annual reports were noting carefully and that Detroit's product planning had not yet produced an adequate response to. The Corolla was not a trend, it was evidence of a permanent shift in what a portion of the American market had decided to prioritize. Its 1.2 or 1.6-liter four-cylinder, simple carburetor, and available 3-speed automatic produced fuel economy that the full-size American car could not approach, and a reliability record that the Vega and the Pinto had spent 5 years failing to match. The Corolla's maintenance costs stayed within the range that any independent shop in any American town could service without proprietary equipment. Number 7. Ford Granada. Ford ran an advertisement in 1977 placing the Granada next to a Mercedes-Benz 280 and asking American buyers which one cost less. Mercedes-Benz was not consulted. The comparison was legally defensible, commercially effective, and in the specific way that advertising can tell a truth while creating an impression, entirely accurate. The Granada did cost less than a Mercedes. It also had considerably less in common with one than the advertisement implied. But 355,186 Americans chose it in 1977, placing it among the top 5 best-selling passenger cars in the country. They were purchasing a story as much as a vehicle. The Granada's Maverick-derived platform carried its visual pretensions over domestic mechanical fundamentals, a 250 cubic inch inline-6 or 302 cubic inch V8, a unibody construction that any Ford dealer in any American city could service without specialized equipment. Ford had correctly identified that in 1977, what a car communicated about its driver was commercially as significant as what the car actually contained. The Granada is at number 7 because 355,186 Americans found Ford's comparison to a Mercedes sufficient justification for the purchase, and because the car that built its entire sales argument on a borrowed European identity reached the top 5 in American passenger car sales the year it made that argument, without apology, with a completely straight face.
Number 6. Ford LTD. The Ford LTD finished third among all passenger cars sold in the United States in 1977 with 380,499 units. It accomplished this without generating a cultural moment, without appearing in a film that year, and without producing a single advertisement that any American over 60 can quote today. It was the full-size Ford that American families chose when they had decided on a full-size Ford. which in 1977 meant joining 380,000 other American families in the same practical decision for the same practical reasons: room, comfort, a V8 that started reliably, and a dealer network in every American county that could service it without appointment. Its 6-passenger bench seat, its cruise-o-matic automatic, and its trunk large enough for a full family vacation's luggage produced exactly what the full-size buyer needed and nothing that the personal luxury coupes around it were offering at higher prices. The LTD did not aspire. It delivered. The LTD is at number 6 because 380,499 units sold without a film, without a memorable advertisement, and without a single cultural moment worth recalling is the definition of a car that simply worked, and because the third best-selling passenger car in America in 1977 remains, 50 years later, among the least discussed cars of its entire era, precisely because it gave its owners no mechanical reason to complain and no dramatic story worth telling. Number 5. Chevrolet Monte Carlo. The 1977 Chevrolet Monte Carlo wore its distinctive stacked rectangular headlights in vertical pairs at a time when the personal luxury coupe segment had never been more commercially crowded and still outsold every competitor in it. Its A-body colonnade platform, its velour interior options, and its formal roofline communicated the aspiration that the mid-decade American buyer had decided to prioritize: the appearance of luxury at a Chevrolet price from the most accessible dealer network in the country. The 350 cubic inch V8 delivered performance the car's proportions implied without triggering the insurance surcharges that had eliminated the muscle car segment 5 years earlier. The Monte Carlo's buyer in 1977 was purchasing a statement about personal achievement, communicated by the car parked in the driveway, visible to the neighbor, legible at a glance. That statement, at a Chevrolet price, was within reach of the buyer who could not yet afford the Buick Riviera, making the same claim from the showroom across the parking lot. The Monte Carlo is at number 5 because the personal luxury coupe that every Chevrolet dealer had in inventory outsold every personal luxury competitor in 1977 on the simplest commercial logic available. It was the right car at the right price from the right dealer. And the American buyer in 1977 recognized all 3 of those things simultaneously and without hesitation. Number 4. Pontiac Grand Prix. The 1977 Pontiac Grand Prix was the final year of the Colonnade-era personal luxury coupe before the 1978 downsizing redesign, and buyers who understood that responded with 288,430 purchases, the highest single-year total in the Grand Prix nameplate's history, representing a 26% increase over 1976. The waterfall grille, the floor-shifted turbo-hydromatic, the bucket seat interior with the center console, all of it unchanged from the configuration that had been building sales momentum since 1973. The farewell season produced the largest year. American buyers, when they know a known configuration is ending, reliably buy more of it than they bought when it was going to return. While the Thunderbird pulled ahead in total volume at 325,153 units, the Grand Prix dominated among GM's direct Colonnade competitors. Its SJ trim with the 400 cubic inch V8 gave performance buyers a credential the base 301 cubic inch car declined to offer. The Grand Prix is at number 4 because 288,430 Americans chose the Colonnade Pontiac personal luxury coupe in its final configuration, and because the buyers who understood they were purchasing the last of its kind made 1977 the year the Grand Prix sold more than it had in any previous model year or any year that followed. That is precisely what farewell seasons produce, when the product is good enough that the audience actually mourns its passing rather than celebrating what comes next.
Number 3. Oldsmobile Cutlass. The Oldsmobile Cutlass had been the best-selling passenger car in the United States in 1975 and 1976, 2 consecutive years. In 1977, it sold 527,939 units, more than in either of its championship years. It was not enough. General Motors introduced the downsized Chevrolet Caprice and Impala, and the combined full-size Chevrolet total exceeded the Cutlass. The car had grown its sales figures and lost its title simultaneously, in the specific way that a market position can be overtaken without the car itself declining. The Cutlass had not weakened, something else had gotten stronger. Whether the Cutlass or the Chevrolet full-size actually led American passenger car sales in 1977 depends on whether the Caprice and Impala are counted as one nameplate or two. Oldsmobile argued the Cutlass, General Motors counted the Chevrolets combined. Historians have noted the debate without resolving it to anyone's complete satisfaction. The Cutlass is at number 3 because 527,939 units in the year it fell from first place is a number that demands a pause. The most commercially dominant American passenger car of the previous 2 years, growing its absolute sales in the year it lost the championship title, selling more than 500,000 copies in the year it finally had to share the conversation with a Chevrolet that had shed 800 pounds and arrived at the top of the market faster than anyone at Oldsmobile had anticipated. Number 2. Chevrolet Caprice. General Motors made the single most consequential engineering decision of the American automotive decade when it shrank the full-size Chevrolet by 800 pounds for 1977. The new Caprice was shorter, lighter, and more fuel-efficient than the car it replaced, and American buyers responded with combined full-size Chevrolet purchases of 657,151 units, a 45% increase over the previous year. The industry had told itself for years that American buyers would not accept a smaller full-size car. The 1977 Caprice proved that American buyers would accept a smaller full-size car when the smaller car was better than the larger one it replaced, which turned out to be a different proposition entirely. The Caprice, the top-line full-size Chevrolet above the Impala, delivered the interior volume, the ride quality, and the V8 performance the full-size buyer required, in a package that used less fuel, handled more predictably, and parked with less effort than the 1976 model it had replaced. It answered the fuel economy question without abandoning the full-size promise. The Caprice is at number 2 because the downsizing experiment that every American manufacturer was watching to see if it would fail produced a 45% sales increase instead, and because that result changed what every engineer at Ford, Chrysler, and American Motors understood about what the American full-size buyer would accept when the engineering was done correctly. Number 1. Pontiac Trans Am. On June 3, 1977, Smokey and the Bandit opened in American theaters. Burt Reynolds drove a black and gold 1977 Pontiac Trans Am across the American South at speeds that the national 55-mile-per-hour limit had made illegal, and that the film made feel like the only reasonable response to a long, empty road. The movie grossed $127 million at the North American box office, second only to Star Wars, in a year that produced 2 of the most culturally dominant films in American history. By December, Pontiac's entire Firebird line had recorded a 41% sales increase directly attributable to the film's reach. The Trans Am had not been heavily advertised that year. It had been in a movie that 40 million Americans saw. The effect compounded into 1978 and peaked in 1979 when Pontiac produced over 117,000 Trans Ams in a single year, from a car that had been a low-volume performance variant before June 3, 1977. The black and gold color combination sold out at dealers. The Screaming Chicken hood decal became a cultural shorthand for a specific kind of American freedom that the 55-mile-per-hour limit had officially prohibited, and that the film made viscerally desirable to anyone who saw it. The Trans Am is at number 1 because 1977 is the year a single film opened in June and transformed a specialty car into a national icon by December, and because 50 years later, the black and gold Bandit car is still the first image that forms when someone says the words Pontiac Trans Am.